There is a certain kind of person who doesn't say much, but when they think, the whole world inside them comes alive. If this is you, then this video is about you. Because you're not quiet, you're not shy, you're not distant. You're a quiet but intense thinker, someone who feels deeply, observes everything, and understands more than people realize. Pause for a moment. Notice how your mind reacts to that. A part of you says, yes, that's me. Another part says, but no one ever sees it. And that's exactly the inner truth we're going to explore. Let's be honest, being a quiet, intense thinker is not always easy. People misunderstand you. They think you're disconnected when actually your mind is working faster, deeper, and more quietly than theirs. You often stay silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're analyzing everything. The situation, the emotions, the consequences, the hidden intentions, and the deeper meaning behind it all. Think before you speak, sometimes too much. You replay conversations in your head, not because you're insecure, but because you care about accuracy, truth, and impact. And here's the part almost no one understands. Your silence is not emptiness. Your silence is processing. Your silence is awareness. Have you ever noticed how exhausted your mind feels after a social situation? Not because you talk too much, but because you are absorbing everything. That's the life of someone who is quiet on the outside, but intense on the inside. Think about this for a second. Why do you notice things other people overlook? Why do you pick up on someone's energy before they say a single word? Why do chaotic environments drain you so quickly? It's because your mind doesn't sit on the surface. It dives deeply, quietly, constantly. And deep minds don't function the same as everyone else. There is a truth you may never tell others. You rarely feel understood, because people don't care, but because you don't show your full inner world unless you genuinely trust someone. You have layers, you have depth, you have thoughts you would never dare to say because you know most people won't get them. You might even feel guilty sometimes, guilty for being too quiet, too observant, too in your head. But here's what you need to hear. Your mind works differently, not incorrectly. And that difference is powerful. Picture this. You're in a room full of people. Everyone's talking. The noise is loud. The conversations feel shallow. You smile politely, you listen, you nod. But inside, you're thinking about why people act the way they do, the emotional undercurrents in the room, the real meaning behind the casual jokes, the inconsistencies in someone's tone, and the bigger truths no one dares to speak. You're present, yet detached, engaged, yet observing, quiet, yet intensely aware. You may even leave the room feeling like you lived three parallel realities, the one people saw, the one you felt, and the one you analyzed. Because of this inner depth, you sometimes struggle with very simple things. Small talk feels fake. Loud people overwhelm you. Forced socializing drains you. People confuse your silence with disinterest. You avoid drama because emotional chaos suffocates you. This isn't because you lack social skills. It's because your mind lives in a different dimension, a deeper one. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're too much on the inside and not enough on the outside at the same time? Have you ever wished that people could just see how much you actually understand, how much you think, how much you care? Because here's the truth. You're not quiet because you're empty. You're quiet because your thoughts are full. And that inner world, the rich, layered, brilliant world inside your mind, is the core of who you are. Let's start with one of the core psychological truths about people who are quiet but intense thinkers. Your brain is wired for depth instead of speed. This means you don't respond instantly. You don't blurt out unfiltered thoughts. You don't jump into every conversation. Instead, your mind moves inward, slowly, carefully, intentionally. It analyzes before it reacts. It reflects before it speaks. It searches for meaning before it gives a conclusion. Doesn't mean you're slow. It means you operate on a different frequency, a deeper one. People with depth-oriented cognition tend to process details others never register, think in layers instead of lines, hold multiple interpretations at once, notice micro-expressions and emotional shifts, detect inconsistencies in tone, behavior, or words. Don't just hear words. You hear intentions. You hear subtext. You hear the truth behind the noise. That's why you sometimes pause before answering. You're thinking, and thinking deeply. But here's the interesting part. Have you ever criticized yourself for thinking too much? Have you ever wished you could just switch off your mind and be more casual like everyone else? You're not overthinking. You're depth thinking. And there is a huge difference. Overthinking is fear-driven. Depth thinking is clarity-driven. Your silence is not hesitation. It's discernment. Let's break this down with a simple scenario. Imagine you're in a group conversation. Everyone is talking rapidly, bouncing opinions and jokes around. People speak as soon as a thought pops up. There's no filter, no structure, just noise. Meanwhile, your mind is doing something completely different. You're not just listening. You're analyzing who is dominating the room, who is holding back, what emotions are rising, what the real topic is beneath the surface, what you actually want to contribute. By the time you're ready to speak, by the time your thought becomes clear, precise, meaningful, the conversation has already moved on. And that's when you stay silent. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your timing is built on depth, not speed. Most people talk to fill space. You talk to bring clarity. That's the difference. Another scenario. You're watching someone explain a story. Most people just hear the story and move on. But you notice their body language, the pauses in their sentences, the way their eyes shift, the emotional weight behind every word. You pick up on what they're not saying. And because you think deeply, you often catch the real story long before others do. This is why people sometimes come to you for advice, even if they don't know why. You see patterns. You understand behavior. You read emotional energy like a second language. Let me ask you something. Why do you think you always notice what others miss? Why do chaotic people drain you so quickly? Why do you feel uncomfortable when someone is being fake, even if no one else notices it? It's because your brain's default mode is high sensitivity plus high analysis. You don't skim the surface, you go straight to the core. Psychology calls this deep cognitive processing. It means your brain doesn't like shallow input. You need meaning. You need emotional clarity. You need depth. This is why you dislike small talk. You prefer meaningful conversations. You bond with very few people, but very strongly. You hate loud, chaotic environments. You feel tired after over-socializing. You need time alone to reset your mind. Your brain requires space to process, reflect, and integrate. Think of it like this. Most people operate with a flashlight. They see what's directly in front of them. You operate with a lantern. You illuminate the entire room. Here's another simple example. When someone upsets you, you don't explode immediately. You withdraw. You go quiet. You start analyzing. Why did this hurt me? What does this situation actually mean? Is this worth reacting to? What's the deeper pattern here? This makes people think you're calm or emotionless, but you're not. You're processing your emotions before expressing them, which is something most people don't know how to do. Silence during conflict is not weakness. It's emotional intelligence. Here's the second major psychological truth about quiet but intense thinkers. You don't just think, you story build. Your mind creates internal narratives, emotional layers, and meaning-based interpretations for almost everything that happens. Where most people react to what they see, you react to what it means. Where most people focus on what is happening, you focus on why it's happening. This is why your inner world feels so rich and sometimes so heavy. Your brain naturally constructs emotional backstories, deeper reasons behind behavior, long-term consequences, psychological motives, symbolic meaning, what-if scenarios, alternative interpretations. Your mind is not passive. It's constantly weaving connections, and this ability makes you incredibly intuitive, but also easily misunderstood. Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever felt like you understand people better than they understand themselves, and yet somehow you struggle to explain your own inner world to others? You get people deeply, but people rarely get you. Quiet but intense thinkers often live in this paradox. You're emotionally perceptive, but emotionally private. You're open to understanding others, but others have to earn the right to understand you. It's not a flaw. It's a psychological pattern. Most people connect on the first layer of interaction, the visible one: words, tone, social flow. But you connect on deeper layers: emotion, intention, energy, consistency, unspoken meaning. This is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Your mind is waiting for a deeper signal, something real, something meaningful, something authentic. Crowds exhaust you because there's too much noise and not enough truth. Why do small conversations feel empty to you? Why do you feel relieved when you're finally alone? Why does one real connection mean more to you than 50 casual ones? It's because your mind craves depth the way others crave stimulation. Think about someone you truly connected with, not the ones you talk to casually, but the very few who stayed in your mind long after the conversation ended. 5 minutes to second, he said. What made them different? It wasn't their humor. It wasn't their personality. It wasn't their appearance. It was the feeling of resonance, that sense of, this person gets me. I don't have to perform. I can breathe. Quiet, intense thinkers bond through emotional safety, not social excitement. You open up slowly, in layers, and only when the environment feels right. You rarely show your inner world. So when you do, it's a sign that the connection is rare. People like you replay past conversations, not because you're awkward, but because you're analyzing the emotional tone, studying what felt off or genuine, checking whether your words matched your intention, reflecting on meaning you sensed beneath the surface. It's your mind's way of finding clarity. This is something depth-oriented thinkers do by default. You revisit, refine, and re-understand emotionally significant moments. Others forget the conversation. You keep the meaning. Do you ever feel like you're too sensitive for the world, or too perceptive, or too quiet for people to see the real you? You're not too much. You're simply built differently. Your mind operates on deeper frequencies, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. People who think loudly tend to speak quickly. People who think deeply tend to speak rarely. Another part of insight number 2 is your internal filter. You don't trust people instantly. You observe them first, quietly, subtly, patiently. You test their consistency. You listen to their tone. You watch their actions. You pay attention to their energy, and this filter protects you from chaos, manipulation, or emotional instability. Most people trust quickly and regret it later. You trust slowly and rarely regret it. This isn't coldness. It's wisdom. Your mind sees red flags early. You feel subtle shifts others overlook. You sense dishonesty before it's spoken. This makes you guarded, not distant. Cautious, not cold. Selective, not antisocial. Your inner world is too precious to open for just anyone. Ever notice how some people drain your energy, even if the interaction was short? It's not because you're introverted. It's because your mind works like an emotional sponge. You absorb tension, inconsistency, hidden frustration, suppressed anger, unspoken insecurity, pretended confidence. People may only show their words, but you feel everything beneath the words. This is a gift, but it comes with a cost. You need solitude to release the emotional data you absorb. There comes a moment, usually quietly, usually late at night, when you start realizing something important. You weren't meant to think like everyone else. You weren't meant to speak at the speed of noise. You weren't meant to dilute your depth to fit into shallow spaces. The way your mind works, the way you observe, the way you sense emotion before it's expressed, This is not an accident, it's a design. And the turning point is when you finally stop seeing your quietness as a flaw and start seeing it as intelligence, as strength, as awareness. This is the moment where everything in your life begins to make sense. Let's talk about that moment. For a long time, you might have questioned yourself. Why do I feel everything so deeply? Why do people drain me so easily? Why do I understand others more than they understand me? Why is my silence always misinterpreted? But when you realize that your brain is layered, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the confusion fades. You begin to recognize that your depth is not a burden, it's a blueprint. Layer 1, awareness. You notice what others ignore, shifts in tone, hidden emotions, subtle tensions. Layer 2, interpretation. You don't just see behavior, you understand the psychology behind it. Layer 3, meaning. You naturally assign purpose, patterns, and emotional context to situations. Layer 4, integration. You don't react instantly, you reflect deeply and respond wisely. Your mind stacks information like puzzle pieces, creating a clearer picture than most people ever see. This layered processing is why your silence is power, not weakness. Think about this. Have you ever given someone advice they didn't understand until months later? Have you ever sensed a person's true intentions long before they revealed themselves? Have you ever predicted an emotional outcome without consciously knowing how? This is your mind revealing its true strength. You're not slow. You're not overthinking. You're not too sensitive. You are perceptive. You are reflective. You are intuitive. And this combination is extremely rare. There's another turning point too. The moment when you look back at your life and realize a pattern. You were always the observer. You were always the one who understood quietly. You were the emotional anchor in chaos. You were the one who sensed what others couldn't articulate. Even as a child, you probably preferred depth over noise, enjoyed meaningful conversations, felt drained by superficial people, needed time alone to recharge, remembered emotional details others forgot. These were not weaknesses. They were early signs of your inner architecture. When you see this, everything aligns. Your quietness becomes clarity. Your sensitivity becomes intelligence. Your solitude becomes strength. Quiet but intense thinkers often carry invisible emotional pressure. The pressure to socialize more, talk more, fit in more, be normal. But at the turning point, something changes. You stop forcing yourself to fit into a world built for fast talkers and surface thinkers. You start honoring your pace. You start protecting your mental and emotional energy. You begin to understand your silence is not absence, it's presence. Your solitude is not loneliness, it's recharge. Your depth is not intensity, it's clarity. People who misunderstand you simply aren't tuned into your frequency. You stop apologizing for who you naturally are. You stop shrinking your mind to make others comfortable. You stop letting noisy people drown out your inner truth. This self-acceptance is subtle, but powerful. You ever noticed that your life becomes calmer when you stop explaining yourself? Have you ever felt more peaceful when you choose depth over popularity? Have you ever realized that the people who truly understand you are very few, but incredibly meaningful? These questions are part of the shift. They signal that you are slowly stepping into your real identity. One of the biggest turning points for intense thinkers is this simple truth. Not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's okay. Your depth is not meant for everyone. Your insight is not meant for everyone. Your emotional intelligence is not meant for everyone. Some people only understand noise. You understand silence. Some people only understand words. You understand meaning. Some people only understand actions. You understand intention. When you finally accept this, you stop chasing validation. You start valuing authenticity. And that is when you begin stepping fully into your strength. Let's bring everything together. You've spent years thinking your quietness needed fixing, that your depth was too much, that your silence made you invisible, that your sensitivity was weakness. But now, you're starting to see the truth. You are not made for the surface. You are made for depth. Mind works differently because it's built to notice, understand, and feel deeply. This is not something to hide. It's something to honor. Your quietness is not the absence of words. It's the presence of awareness. It's the ability to think before you speak. It's the ability to sense before you act. It's the ability to understand without demanding attention. You don't take up space loudly. You take up space meaningfully. Most people misunderstand quiet people because they measure value through volume. But quiet intensity is a completely different kind of power. Quiet intensity is observing instead of interrupting, thinking instead of reacting, listening instead of competing, absorbing instead of overpowering, feeling instead of pretending. Your quietness is not emptiness, it's focus. Your depth is not heaviness, it's clarity. Your sensitivity is not fragility, it's emotional intelligence. What people mistake as distance is actually discernment. What people see as mystery is actually self-protection. What people label as coldness is actually careful observation. You're not disconnected from the world. You're connected in a different way. Think about this. Why do you remember the small details people forget? Why you sense tension before others notice anything is wrong? Why do people sometimes feel safe around you, even when you barely speak? Because your energy communicates what your words don't. Carry a calm presence, a grounded presence, a thoughtful presence. People feel your depth, even if they don't know how to name it. There's a quiet kind of spirituality in people like you. You move through life with intention. You feel emotions fully. You seek truth over noise. You value meaning over chaos. Some call it mindfulness. Some call it intuition. Some call it emotional intelligence. Some call it inner awareness. Whatever name you use, the essence is the same. Your mind is a sacred space. Not everyone deserves access to it. Not everyone earns the right to understand your depth. Not everyone can handle your emotional honesty. And that's perfectly okay. You are not meant for everyone. You are meant for the few who can see you, the real you. Once you stop forcing yourself to be loud, once you stop apologizing for being thoughtful, once you stop shrinking your depth to make others comfortable, something changes. Life becomes calmer. Your relationships become clearer. Your boundaries become stronger. Your energy becomes balanced. Your inner world becomes peaceful. You begin choosing environments that nourish you. Quieter spaces, meaningful conversations, emotionally intelligent people, authentic connections, solitude that recharges instead of isolates. You stop chasing people who misunderstand you, and you start valuing the ones who make you feel seen. This is the beauty of accepting your own depth. You finally allow yourself to live authentically. So, let me say this clearly. You are not too quiet. You are not too sensitive. You are not too intense. You are not too deep. You are exactly who you're meant to be. Your mind is rare. Your heart is wise. Your intuition is powerful. Their presence is meaningful. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need constant attention to be valuable. You don't need to change yourself to fit into shallow spaces. You are strong. You are rare. You are enough. The world needs people like you. People who think before they speak. People who feel before they act. People who understand without judgment. People who bring calm, awareness, and insight wherever they go. Your quiet intensity is not an accident, it's a gift. It helps others feel safe. It makes you a natural observer, a deep thinker, a reflective soul. It gives you the ability to see truth, feel energy, and connect meaningfully. The next time someone calls you too quiet, remember what that really means. It means your mind is powerful. It means your awareness is sharp. It means your depth is rare. It means your silence holds more meaning than their noise. Walk through the world with confidence. Speak when it matters. Observe when it doesn't. Honor your intuition. Protect your peace. And never, ever apologize for your depth. Because you, exactly as you are a quiet force. A deep soul. A powerful thinker. A rare presence in a noisy world. And you deserve to be seen, valued, and understood, without ever having to become someone you're not.